Hey guys, it's Rachel. I just wanted to make a video because I haven't made one in a while, and last time I made one, I was out of the hospital and hadn't really gone in a while, and I was just going back to get a fistula plug put in and to have my drain taken out. So kind of wanted an updated video because a lot's happened since then. So I went back to get the fistula plug, and that was so much more painful than I had thought that it would be. But luckily I got the drain taken out and that hasn't been a problem, so I'm so thrilled not to have that anymore. And so I went back to get it, and I came out of surgery and I was in so much pain and I had to walk before I could leave. It was an outpatient thing, but they wanted me to walk just to make sure it was okay. And so I was walking and I was like, it was just terrible. I was in so much pain. My mom had to help me walk. It was just so bad. And then the ride home, oh my gosh, I had to sit, like the nurse made me a donut to sit on out of a towel. And then I had a pillow that I sat on, and since it was kind of favoring my left side, on the way home I sat on my right side. So on every tiny little bump, I would jump up out of my seat and just cry out in pain. And my dad didn't really think that was very normal, of course. I mean, who would? So my dad finally, I don't know how many days it took, but he said, okay, let's go to the ER, have a CAT scan done, whatever. And so they brought me to the ER, and they always do this. They do blood cultures, IV, and then they bring me to a CT scan for contrast with the IV. So they did that, and they said, well, everything looks normal. I mean, they've never really seen fistula plugs here where I live, so they sent me home with a fentanyl patch that I put like right here on my back, and it worked, and finally the pain died down enough that I was able to live life. Pain's gone away now, I don't even notice it. And then, let's see. So I've gone to the ER 3 times in the past, like, 2.5 or 3 months or so. And I think I went to the ER again because I was having really bad abdominal pain, like really bad. And so my parents, like, I can never really make the decision myself to make myself go to the ER. So I always have my parents, they have to be like, okay, well, you need to go to the ER, like, you kind of need to, I mean, this is ridiculous. So they said, okay, well, we're going to the ER because you're in too much pain. So we went to the ER, and because I don't have a large intestine, I can't push out stool. So with people that have an ostomy, it is very hard for us to keep up on our hydration because your large intestine would pull out water, and that's how you get your hydration and stuff. And with an ostomy, you lose water fast. So when I eat, I have to drink about 1.5 bottles or 2 bottles of water with just one meal. And that's if it's not very fibrous. If there's a lot of fiber, like fruit, I have to drink a lot of water. And so they did, the normal blood cultures, IV, and then CT scan. And I came out with my dad because my mom was tax season, so she's working, and the doctor came into my little curtain room thing, and she was like, okay, well, it's a blockage, and that's what my dad thought it was. And he's had many. He has an ostomy, and he knows what it's like, and he was very surprised that I was in so much pain that I had to go to the ER for it. So what they did was anywhere that's not the hospital I had my surgery at, they don't want to touch me because of all the complications that I've had. So what they do is they just send me via ambulance back up there so they can take care of me, and then I come home. And it's really a pain in the butt because I had to ride in the ambulance alone so my parents can get a car up there. So they arranged for me to go ambulance, and my mom's in tax season, and she's the person that I need, It's just easier because in the hospital, you kind of need someone that's your gender because you're not really you know, covered up most of the time. So it's a little hard to go with my dad. So my mom she was freaking out. She's at work and she's like, okay, I can come if you need me to. And I'm like, no, Mom, stay at work. Just stay at work. And I was kind of worried going in the ambulance by myself because last time I went in December in an ambulance, my mom was there. Although I had sepsis, so it was a really big rush to get me there. So they arranged for me to go, and I think it took them like 2 hours because they just gotten a call and they were in Paso and they had to come back, Paso Robles. And so, excuse my bangs. So they got there and stuff, and it was nice because one of them was cute. Oh my gosh. So, they arranged for me to go via ambulance, and, you know, they packed me up, got me in the ambulance, and we were on our way, and, they weren't really sure what they were gonna do. The idea was kind of just keep me hydrated and stay off food, and, you know, if you stay off food, you're gonna starve, like, obviously. So they sent me home, or they did not send me home. I got there, and, I hate these. And so they got me in my room, and my mom comes home, because I was alone, I hadn't seen her all day, and so she came in, and she was like, oh my gosh, so good to see you, and stuff, and, it's nice, because, although the hospital's full, so we went to One North at Lucille Packard, and, in Stanford, and, I was on the oncology unit, and it was a private room, and it's a really nice private room because it's cancer. It's like the cancer ward, so, or unit, I keep calling them wards. So, it was a really nice room, and we were only there for a couple days, but, the doctor came in that night and said, okay, we're just gonna wait and see. And it's like, I hadn't had water all day, I was really thirsty, I was hungry, and it's like, okay, well, I'm in pain, but can I have water or ice chips or anything? And he's just like, no, let's just wait and see, because if they want to do surgery, then I need to not have anything in my system so that they can do surgery. And, so I couldn't have anything. And the next morning, they're like, okay, well, you can have water. And I was like, you couldn't have told me that last night? Would it have really made that big of a difference? And so that was kind of frustrating. So that stay was a really frustrating stay for me because they moved me from the oncology unit up to 3 East, which is where I usually am, and that night is what my mom and I call the night from hell. I was in pain, a lot of pain, and they were working on getting me a morphine pump so that I could control my pain. And my mom was like, well, can she get a bolus and to get me a starting dose? And they said no. And they were trying to call the attending on call that night, and they weren't answering their pages. And it was really frustrating because for her to see me in that much pain and for me not to be able to control it, it was really hard for me. And I really felt bad because then I started to throw up after they gave me the morphine pump. And then it just got worse because when your stomach hurts and then you throw up, it's a very frustrating pain. And that's when I started to scream, and it was frustrating to me because the nurses weren't doing very much to really help me. And I felt like they didn't care because they weren't trying to do very much. And I was really frustrated, and so was my mom, and I felt so bad because we were just both sitting there just crying because she couldn't do anything, and I felt terrible, and I was in so much pain. And finally I said, just give me Dilaudid, just give me something, and they gave me that, and it totally helped, and I was just so relieved because it went away, but then it came back because it wears off fast. But then I think then they gave me a Dilaudid pump, I believe, and then it's a little blurry for me because I was on so many drugs, but then they moved me to a shared room that I've had about 4 times, and don't quite remember, but I think my IV blew that night, and they had to take it out. And I said, oh, it's okay, I'll drink water, I'll stay hydrated, and I didn't. And I got severely dehydrated to where my hands would cramp like this, and I was stuck like this, and I felt so weird, and I couldn't move my hands. And I was screaming because I was scared. Like, it scared me. I couldn't move my hands. And, they were trying to start an IV with me like that, and that's a little challenging. So, they were trying to do that, and anyway, like, skip ahead. I got back to the oncology unit from 3 days because I was paired with a baby roommate, and my mom and I just said, no, I'm not sleeping in a room with a baby. No, this is stupid. I'm 15. I shouldn't have to sleep with a baby. And so they switched me back to One North on a private room, in a private room. And so they originally thought that it was a blockage, but it turned out it had been a bacterial overgrowth, and from too many antibiotics. And they had me on antibiotics multiple times. I think like nearly every time I left the hospital I was on antibiotics. So they sent me home after 13 days in the hospital. That was the first time I got my PICC line, and it was kind of a scary experience getting it, but they gave me a drug that made me sleep, and I barely remember anything. But I went home with it, and I was home with it for a week, I think, and I said, I'm doing great, you know, I feel great, I don't have to go back on TPN, I'm totally fine. So they took it out, and then I think, I don't remember how many days after, but then I went back to the hospital, excuse me, because, my stoma had been already getting, it was about that big. It was really scaring me because it was going back into my body. And what happened was, it's a, what is it called? I don't know, but it's basically two stomas. One's dormant, it is not doing anything. And the other side is the active side. And the active side was doing this. But the dormant side was staying really, it was good, and it was staying there. The other side was like way down here. I could barely see it. And so my bag was leaking, so I was like, okay, I gotta change it. And I was home alone. And when I'm home alone, I'm always scared, because if something bad happens to me, I have to call my parents, and I don't want to freak them out. So, I'm in there, I'm changing my stoma, my bag, and I look down, and it's super small. So I always have my phone in there with me, just in case, so that if I need someone, I can call them, or I take a picture. So I took a picture of it, I sent it to my mom, and I said, this is getting really small. And, it was really scaring me, and I was really overwhelmed, and I really didn't know what to do, to put a bag on it. I mean, I don't know what to do, you know? And, I called my mom, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And that morning, I had some stomach pain. I didn't know if I was getting a blockage or what, but I had really bad stomach pain, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse, and it kept getting worse throughout the day. So by the time I called my mom, I was in tears because I was just in so much pain. She's like, well, what do you want me to do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, she's like, call Dad, he has experience in this, I'll know what to do. I called him, and he said for my mom to come home, and so she did, and we ended up, you know, going to the ER again, but my parents were sick and tired of the ER here wasting time, and so my dad just wanted to go straight to Stanford, and that's a 3.5-hour drive from where I am. And the pain I was in was so intolerable. I have a very high pain tolerance. I've had this since I was 8. I've always had stomach problems as far as I can remember. And it was really frustrating to me that he would do that. But I understood it because the ambulance rides and everything, they're very expensive. And so we went straight to Stanford. And it was really hard for me because I had to go with my dad, and I had been with my mom for literally like 5 months straight, because she had been with me since the first surgery to the last day, and I was only home for 13 days. And then, so it was really hard for me to say goodbye to her, because 3.5 hours, you know, that's a big gap between us. And, so we said goodbye, and my dad and I had to go. I mean, we had to. Like, I needed to get there and get pain medicine and get under control. So we got there and got in the ER, and I was just screaming. Like, I felt so bad for the other people, but I was in so much pain that I had to. Like, I needed to. And so we got back in the ER, and they got me a bed and everything. And they got an IV started, and a doctor came in, and she was going to try to dilate my stoma to see if that would allow fluid to come out. And she saw how small it was, and she was like, that's really small. And we knew that I needed to get a revision done again on my stoma for the second time. And that was frustrating to me because this should have been over a long time ago. And I've had complication after complication, and it's really frustrating me. The doctors keep screwing up. So I got in there, and dilation didn't work. So they admitted me and sent me up to a shared room. And of course, I had a baby roommate when I got there. She was 2 years old, I think. I'm not sure. Or 2 months. I don't remember. It was a 2. I know that. And so that was terrible. She cried a lot. The first night though, they gave me a lot of pump right away. They were very quick to give me that. And they knew that the next morning I would need to get an NG tube and a PICC line. That made me very emotional, and my dad wasn't exactly there, for me to, cuddle with or, have someone to cry to. So I kept it all inside, and it was hard for me to do that, but I did. And I just kept pressing my button, like, throughout the night, because the pain wasn't under control until, like, the next day. So I saw my doctors the next morning, I think. The first few nights are a little blurry for me. And they planned for the surgery and the PICC line to be in place and for me to be right on TPN again. And because I've lost so much weight that they don't want to risk anything. And so they planned to get a PICC line, an NG tube, and then surgery. And I have had 2 PICC lines. I had one when I was 10, I believe, and then one after my first surgery in November. And so NG tubes honestly scare me because I'm a person that likes to look presentable, not for other people but for myself. And so it frustrates me when I don't look the way I want to look. And and it scared me because I wasn't with my mom. And I love to be with my mom when I'm going through stuff like this. And so we go into the treatment room that's on the floor that I was on to get the PICC line in and to get the NG tube in. And so we got in there, and they gave me the same medicine they did the time before for the PICC line. So I was asleep very quickly, I believe. I remember waking up a couple times. I don't know why. I think I just woke up, talked for a second, and fell back asleep. So we did that, and I woke up. I didn't have an NG tube. I was really happy. But then my happiness wasn't really lived for very long. The doctor came in and said, okay, well, we don't want to put that in while you're asleep, blah, blah, blah. It's like some of it my gag reflex or something, I don't know. But they wanted me to be awake for it. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. They've done this once before when I was asleep. It shouldn't be a problem. And so they wanted to put it in when I was awake. And it totally pissed me off. And I was really angry. Because my mom would have stuck up for me. My dad didn't really do much. So I was really frustrated. You're on that many drugs, your mind's really confused, you're overwhelmed. It's a hard time. Being in the hospital isn't exactly an easy thing to deal with. And especially repeatedly, over and over and over again. And the same thing keeps happening. So they put it in and I was awake. And it sucked. But I had it the whole time I was there. Well, no, I did not have it the whole time I was there. I think I had it for a week. I'm not really sure. So Excuse me. And so I had surgery the next morning, I believe. But I honestly don't remember, like, anything from that day. I don't know why, but my dad said we were in pre-op for, like, an hour. Yeah, I wasn't doing good, apparently. So they revised my stoma, and it turns out that the reason my stomach hurts so much is that my small intestine had twisted itself, and my stomach was rigid, as they said. It was very big. It was very swollen. Because that's what happens. They thought I was bleeding internally, actually. They were actually going to plan to give me a blood transfusion because they thought I was bleeding internally. Yeah, I came out with 2 IVs and a PICC line, just in case I needed the blood transfusion. And I still have marks from that because my veins are so shot that they just can't do an IV on me. So that was fun. Recovering from the stoma revision the first time was really hard because I had pain and nerve pain, and it was just terrible. I wasn't prepared for it. This time I was more prepared for it, but it didn't make it easier. They moved me to a private room after the baby left and I got a new roommate. And so I was there for 13 days again. But I've been home for a week today, and it's really exciting, and then a week from tomorrow I turn 16, and on Tuesday I got my braces off, as you guys probably could tell. And I'm really, like, life is just really looking up for me, and I'm really excited about that, because last month, I got really depressed, and I was really sad, and it was really hard for me to deal with it, and having lost 4 of my best friends right before this happened, and kind of during it, it's a little hard to deal with it, but, moving on, and it's not easy, exactly, because I'm trying to move on, not really care about it, but you're gonna care. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, you're gonna care about losing some best friends. But I would love to talk to you guys if you have any questions. I actually love to answer questions, and it shows, I love it when people care, and tell me your story if you want. I would love to hear it. It would, help to relate. I'll put my email in the drop box down below. Feel free to email me and tell me your story. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and subscribe. Well, I hope that all you guys are doing good, and that you can relate to this in some way. If this helps any of you, it would really make me happy. And I know that YouTube was my place to be right before my surgery and during it. I'm still looking at videos, and they're amazing support, and it's hard to find the silver lining when you're going through a really hard time, but trust me, there is one at the end. And even though I'm not even close to the end right now, I'm still looking at that silver lining. So don't forget to keep your head held high no matter what, and stay strong. Bye guys.